So I think that the most common misconception of longevity is that the intention is to make people live forever. So some people would like to live forever, but the field is not seeing this as a main goal. The main goal of longevity is to live as long as possible, as healthy as possible. And I think all of us can fully identify with that goal. We want to be healthy and live as long as it is normally possible. If it's 100, 120, 150 or 70 years, doesn't really make that much of a difference. If you enjoy life. If you are suffering, you don't want to live for long. I think all currently available interventions are actually a large risk because really we don't know what are all the effects. And for example, I don't know, many people would take Metformin as an anti-aging drug, and even personally I did it. So I was talking to Tim Spector and David Sinclair. They're both taking it. They're smart guys. I know them. I trust them. So they said, yeah, you should try it too. I said, okay, let's try it. And I was taking it for something like half a year probably. And I was monitoring changes in my glycan age. Effect was 0. I didn't see any other beneficial or negative effect. And then we did a proper placebo randomized controlled trial where we had the people taking metformin, people taking testosterone, combination of two, and the placebo. And the result was really clear. In the entire cohort, only a single individual had a beneficial response to metformin. A single individual, entire cohort. So there is a small percentage of healthy people who have beneficial effects of metformin. And potential side effects are risks for everybody. And when we look into diabetic people, of course, then nearly 50% had a positive effect of metformin. So I guess the metformin is really beneficial for people developing diabetes in the pre-diabetes stage or even pre-diabetes stage, so maybe it is beneficial. But if you don't have a problem with the glucose control, you don't need all the risks of metformin, especially because they don't give you any benefit. We tested a number of different supplements, and for majority of them, in the vast majority of people, we did not see any effect. So I would not say that they don't work, but they do not work in the majority of people. So if you want to try some kind of a supplement, you should somehow monitor yourself and see whether this is actually helping you in any way. I'm not saying that the glycans and glycan age are the universal test for everything, but this is definitely one of the ways to see whether you are managing to reduce your low-grade systemic inflammation with some kind of intervention. And I think for majority of us above the age of 35 probably or 40, the low-grade systemic inflammation becomes a major problem. So if we can suppress inflammation, we are solving many of our problems. NAD is definitely extremely important molecule in many processes, including this oxidative phosphorylation and the conversion of food into energy. But how taking NAD as a supplement is actually affecting intracellular levels of NAD, nobody has really demonstrated that this works, and especially that it works in everybody. So I would say at the moment we don't have evidence that something of this works. It's probably not doing damage, but if it's not working and it's not really cheap, I would still say, okay, maybe I'll wait to see some evidence behind what I'm taking before I take it. For example, now we are making plan to do really proper placebo-controlled trial with one of the large supplement companies, which will make a really complex program to see whether something works or not. And I think without the proper placebo-controlled trials, we cannot really know what works. And even if something works in this type of a trial, we still don't know whether it works really for me, because I might be in a group of people who do not work. So ultimately, we have to do experiments on ourselves, see what works. And good thing is, we have time. We are expected to be on this planet for decades and decades, and we can play, we can try different things, and then see what is best for us. I think eventually these things will not be really expensive, because if you're aiming at everybody as the market, then the price can really go down. So everything which is produced for mass market will be cheap. These things are expensive today because there are very few people who actually use it. But I think the key problem is that most of the companies trying to develop something like this today, they want to have a universal magic drug which will work for everybody. This will never happen because we don't have the same problems. So it will always have to come with some kind of companion diagnostics, patient certification tools. So I think eventually it will be a combination of a kind of a biomarker panel, which will first stratify people and then monitor effects, and then targeted intervention, which will actually help. It will take quite some time to get there. But for now, people interested in trying something like that, they can try, and then they can try to measure and see what is going on. It's really hard to know what is real and what is hype, because there's so many companies on the market which can exist only by persuading investors that they have a magic solution which will solve problem and make billions. So it's really hard to distinguish real truth from hype. But there is a strong kind of stream in the longevity field which is moving toward hard science. So validating interventions, validating tests, showing some kind of independent evidence that something works or does not work. And I think this is really important. We have to standardize things, we have to replicate things, we have to validate things, and then people will trust the field more. For the moment, I haven't seen anything which is really proven to work. So, and I'm not, again, I said it already, there will never be a drug which works for everybody. But I think still, the problem we have now is that our lifespan is not increasing anymore. So people were extending their lifespan for more than a century, and now we kind of plateaued. And especially in US, I think we are doing more damage to ourselves than before. So I think the best thing we can do now is try to minimize the damage. And I do hope that these changes which are happening now in the American administration actually will go in that direction of preserving health instead of making a lot of money on actually preserving disease, because current health system is keeping people sick for as long as possible and treating them. So I think the biggest hope is this large-scale research, doing a lot of data acquisition, analysis of data, replicating everything, and finding things which actually work, and then using it to help people who will benefit from the specific intervention. We are focusing on glycans as the biomarkers, and actually we came into field of aging from the field of disease patient certification and disease detection. So I think what is beneficial with glycans is that they're really part of disease phenotype. So if you see changes in IgG glycom, you know you're going towards the higher inflammation level, you know you will eventually develop all these age-related diseases. Or if we talk about other types of glycans, like the total plasma glycom, which correlates more with the glucose metabolism, you know you're going toward the path of insulin resistance and diabetes at the end. And if you start measuring soon enough while you are still healthy, and then you see the change towards the disease, you can intervene early. You can make a change in your lifestyle decade before you will actually get ill. And then you don't go in the disease direction. You stay in preserving health direction, and you probably will never get ill. And even if you find out this 5 years too late, you still have 5 years to do something. So I think it's a idea of all these biomarkers is they just tell you what you cannot see. Because when we look ourselves in a mirror, we are exactly the same as yesterday or day before yesterday. Only if we look at a photo from 10 years ago, you can say, oh gosh, I changed a bit. So with molecules which we measure, we can do the same thing. We can say, oh, I should really think about my lifestyle because now I'm much worse than I was a year before. And then you don't do anything. And then the second year you say, oh gosh, I'm even worse. Now I really have to change something. And then maybe people will change. Some will never, but some people will. It is extremely difficult to follow all the scientific literature. It's nearly impossible. But it's fascinating how new AI tools are actually distilling this information. You can go to something like ChatGPT and ask them questions where you get kind of a summary, and then of course you have to go and check them because they're not perfect yet. So I really believe that these new AI tools will become extremely beneficial very soon because everybody's working in this direction, or we are working in that direction, trying to develop tools which will help people interpret their glycans. And there are some really good podcasts, some people who really invest time and effort to talk to researchers, try to find out the truth. Some really smart people do it. So I think new media, AI tools, this is how we can get information.